The first question we asked was, what is the relationship between your faith and your politics or your vote?
You know, it's an intangible connection, but there is a connection. Let's call it an amorphous connection. America and its Constitution are genius in terms of the separation of church and state. But you can't legislate questions of the spirit. There's a connection. And if a person has a religious point of view, that religious point of view is going to activate itself spiritually in the choices, the active choices, the existential choices which the person is going to make.
I'm a little bit cynical about politics because I think that there's so much, so many folks are just disingenuous regarding any conversation of politics. It doesn't connect with my faith as much as a lot of other things do.
You know, some folks, when they get into public life, talk about their faith a lot. I choose not to do that. For me, faith is a personal thing. That is not to say that it isn't really important in how I try to think through issues that I deal with.
I think the other thing I'm really starting to ask myself in regards to this question is, what is the difference between faith and politics, and that values in the political sphere are so necessarily subject to compromise that when you start with values in the faith arena, that by the time they get translated over, those are very different things.
There is a connection, and until I was asked this question, I don't think I really spent a lot of time trying to articulate or identify that. But I think it's so much of our values as adults have to do with formative years as children. And my faith and the formative years for me was steeped in the Catholic Church.
Being a Christian, you know, we have these biblical values that God taught us, you know, and so I look, and you got to realize I'm 52 now. So as I look at the country and I look at these traditional values deteriorating, and you know, we've came to a point where we have the highest divorce rate in the world, and a lot of these moral values are just taking this country in the wrong direction. And I look and I say, wait a minute, this country's going away from biblical values.
For me, it's an incredibly important thing. I think we live our faith in all kinds of choices and decisions that we make, in terms of how we spend our money, how we spend our time, and I think how we use our votes. For me, it's trying to figure out connections between how I understand what we're called to do, in my case as a Christian, and how I think that gets lived out in our country.
The connection is a very strong one. In fact, I would say my faith led me to choose my politics.
For me, Christianity is the religion of taking care of widows and orphans. That doesn't mean that I think that that's the sole function of government. But for me, that is the most functional aspect of what, for me, is faith.
Well, I think it's a little bit hard to make the connection this year because I don't see, you know, what I would like to have as my values, you know, clearly portrayed by other candidates.
I just kept my faith values, even though my friends, my neighbors, everyone around me seems to be Republican. It's been my Jewish faith that's kept me the way I am.
Since, you know, my beliefs, you know, are based pretty much, you know, on the concepts, you know, of humanism and things of that nature, my vote, of course, is going to be, you know, more, you know, liberal.
Absolutely a connection between faith and politics, just like faith in every other part of my life. My faith, you know, determines my values, morals, and, you know, just about everything I do in life, and, you know, including, you know, who I vote for.
I put my faith in me, knowing that all of us are created from the same supreme divine intelligence. And there is most certainly a connection between my faith and my values, because it would be the foundation that upholds any actions I take to get political empowerment for bringing about equality in our human race and then sustaining it.
Well, there is a connection between my faith and my vote. I really believe that I look at it as a moral issue. What moral grounds of people coming from the candidates, you know, and I think that it's really a part of my belief that, you know, righteousness exalts a nation.
My faith very much impacts my politics. I believe since I was a child, through my faith experience, I've been able to learn a kind of a code or an ethic that has resonated more and more as an adult with me.
Well, most definitely, we think our first loyalty is to Jesus Christ, and we vote. Our faith, you know, reflects our values, and we vote our values, such as respecting all life, born and unborn, sharing with the poor, and giving from our own abundance.
I would like to expect that the government would not need to be involved. That's what I would like. Because I think we as a people can take care of it ourselves if we would open our hearts 100% to those in need. And then, you know, years gone by, the church took care of its people. The church was the center of the community. And at that time, there was no government intervention. All people took care of their neighbors.
Definitely. You know, I think I have a biblical worldview, and I think that affects my political choices. You know, I really don't think I can separate the two of them.
We have different expectations for our politicians. So down here in the States, if there's been an affair, for example, in the background, that's a huge concern, because Americans, they might not put it this way, but we want the president here to be a pastor, to be that kind of moral leader. In Canada, they're not near as concerned as long as they show they've been a decent businessman and can bring legislation through.